Bhargav.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Narmada from Team Khidki.
Yeah.
And first of all, let me thank you from Team Khidki for agreeing to chat with us. And
Thanks for having me. So I am also honored.
we are very excited to talk to you.
Let me just start by again saying thank you for joining us. And at Team Khidki, we are trying to give new perspective to students about what are the possibilities, uh, professional possibilities after they finish their graduation, mostly undergraduation. We want to introduce you to several professionals who are doing unusual work in science. So, using their scientific training, but maybe they are doing something which is somewhat unexpected. So, you are definitely one of the most unexpected scientists I have seen or met, and you do some really unusual work. I think you have created this niche for yourself,
Yeah.
carved it out by yourself. So, we are very interested in knowing
Yeah.
your journey. Okay, so let's start. I'll
Yeah. I'll
start
be
by,
very happy to share my story.
thank you. Let's start by, let me ask you my first question. So, from what we read, there is
Mhm.
a lot of information available about you on the internet. I have read your own
Mhm.
blogs, and I have read some of the interviews people have
Mhm.
taken of you. And from that,
Mhm.
it seems like you started your journey like any other science enthusiast, any science student. But very soon you changed direction. And after spending a few years doing your PhD, you took an unconventional turn. So, can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
your journey? What happened?
Well, um, I would say I was a average student of science, below average actually. So when I started PhD, my approach to PhD and the plans were not right, I think. And I was, of course, I was very keen to do science, and I was very enthusiastic guy, but I really didn't have any definite plan to finish it at that time. I think I was a kid and very immature. So my first mistake was I was trying to bring a new line of research in a very established lab. They were established in a different kind of research. In spite of knowing that my supervisor at the time was not very comfortable with collaboration. Okay. But I thought, okay, I will manage it, which I couldn't. So our project was destined to be failed. It was obvious. Then after, actually, I spent the full term of PhD. I finished my PhD. I just didn't get the degree, and I came up with couple of publications also. But and also I have a patent. So during my PhD, my assay system was developed by myself. So, but then I thought, okay, so it's not gonna be happen, and I will not make it. So let's change the path. And but these were not the reasons of being a dropout. Okay, so I came from a very humble background, and after 5 years, what happens to every Indian student? My fellowship was over, and I was just about to submit my thesis. So my offer to my supervisor was, okay, allow me to write the thesis in lab in the morning, and in evening I'll find a job so that I can sustain my family. But she completely denied it, and she said, no, laboratory is not the space for writing thesis. You have to come as before and help juniors in experiment. When you go back to your home in evening, you have to write the thesis. So it was not a sustainable offer for me. So I resigned, and I joined a media company as a training journalist. Then I never looked back. Like that was end of my scientific career, academic scientific career. So that's
Okay,
how it turned a unconventional path.
So you say that you have tried your hands at various professions, and
Hmm.
after leaving academia, you tried many different things. So
Hmm.
how do you today?
Hmm.
How do you describe yourself? What do you call yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So I love to define myself as a journalist by the day and a cartoonist by night, because what I do is exactly that. I am a full-time journalist in a media company. I am a science journalist there, and when I get back to home, I start drawing cartoons. So it's my current definition. Yeah, I have tried many things like drawing political cartoons, book illustrations, writing columns, even reporting sports also. But then I ended up in drawing comics. So I want to call myself cartoonist because every comics artist in the world, they love to call themselves cartoonists. So that's why I'm a cartoonist too.
Okay. So what does a journalist who is a cartoonist do? How do you use your cartoons in your journalism as well?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Actually, when I was about to drop off, okay, so then I got introduced to World Comics, and I got introduced to Joe Sacco's work. Joe Sacco is a journalist basically, and he's American now, but he's from Malta. He single-handedly created a field which is called comic journalism, and he used to spend his years in war-torn area and conflict zones like Gaza, Palestine, and Afghanistan, Bosnia. He covered Bosnia war, which was about to get the Pulitzer Prize, but somehow it didn't get. So Joe Sacco was in my head when um, I was about to leave the lab. So I thought, okay, being a journalist, perhaps I will be following his path. But in Indian media is not ready yet to put comics in their pages. So I failed basically. So since then I thought, okay, let's start your own blog and put whatever is your skill and your prior experience and do something using that prior skill. Because I cannot take risk like Sacco. He's in America and I am in India. Here the society is different. I have other liabilities. So I couldn't follow his trail, but yeah, still he is my favorite cartoonist, and my closest people know that if I ever get a chance to put a word or something like that and put down that experience in comics, I will leave everything and go there just.
Okay, so your work today, the cartoonist part of it, it combines science,
Hmm.
history, and art. So
Hmm.
when you started out in school, for example, did you enjoy these subjects?
Hmm.
All these three
Hmm.
subjects?
Okay, so let's begin with art. Okay, so when I was in school, so the reputation about me in my local area was like, okay, this kid is very talented artist, and obviously I had very much interest in art, and my father was my first teacher in art. He was a factory worker, but also a very good amateur sculptor. But he never encouraged me to pursue this as career. And it was obvious reason. And my mom was completely against my art practice. So then when I was in ninth standard, I announced in home that I am going to read history. I am going to study history because history and physics were my favorite subject in school. Then again, there is a myth that if you study science, it can bring money, and I cannot deny that means completely. So I took science in higher secondary. At that time, I was good in science, but I was not very interested. Rather, I was interested in humanity. But in college, of course, I got that taste, and since then, I thought, okay, I want to do some bench research, and I'll do PhD someday. So from the college second or third year, I got that interest and that taste.
What kind of career trajectory have you had? You did 11th, 12th science, then you must have done BSc. Then what happened? Like all,
Mhm.
because in Bangalore, I work in Indian Institute of Science, and most of the people who are doing BSc, they think that they must go ahead and do research. Was it something like that for you? And what is your path till now, academic path?
Academic path is I am a PhD dropout, so uh, I just didn't do not have that degree, but I finished my thesis work and I am published too. So till date, I have very much interest in academic research, laboratory research. But when I left the lab, so I had to choose something so that I can sustain and so that I can survive. So in 2013 or 14, I was getting that sense that, well, I'll not make it probably. I will not finish it because the environment of the laboratory was not very encouraging. My colleagues used to get scared every time about job. So in this environment, I cannot work. Like I was average, but I was very serious researcher. I was very passionate researcher. I wanted to learn many things, and I used to spend uh, around 10 to 12 hours in laboratory. I was not restricted by my supervisor, but I just loved to being in lab because I knew that I was average, but I have to learn. But then when I left lab, I joined as a trainee journalist. Okay. So then after 1 year training, I got the commission of the sub editor, which is copy editor post in USA. Then I became a science journalist, and now I run a feature page, a science section of for the house. I am not an editor of that page, but yeah, I am someone in this page. Like people ask me before publication in that page. So in this way, the trajectory got turned. But I had something in my mind, like when I left lab, when I left laboratory-based research, I wanted to take refuge in art. So in parallel, I developed my passion in art. I practiced, and then I thought, okay, it's timing around 2017 uh, or 18, perhaps early 18. I thought, okay, now it's time to do serious comics in science, and I started my blog. So in this way, it got changed uh, organically, I would say.
Must have been very difficult to leave a career that so many people really want. Leave research, leave a PhD without getting the degree. It must have been very difficult decision to make. What gave you courage that it will work and you will find something better or something that interests you, makes you happy?
Okay. Well, I was not very happy when I was leaving academic research. Okay, so it was a heartbreak. Still, I have some regrets about that. I will not tell a lie. I have some regrets even today. And it's not that I was getting any better job or something. Rather, when I joined as a trainee journalist, the amount I was getting, it was even below the half of the fellowship I used to get in lab. But at that time, my first priority was to get some money because in 2015 my fellowship was over and still I was trying to get a degree. And since I came from a humble background, my father was retired already. So we didn't have money, and we was at the brink of some financial crisis. I would say financial disaster. So my first priority was okay. So someday perhaps I will build my own career, but right now the first priority should be sustain the family. So that's why I left the lab and took that job. But it was not easy. Of course, it was a very sad moment for me. And again, I'm telling you, I used to regret even today. Uh, but of course, many people have many things about regret. Perhaps you have, everyone has. So it's not a big deal. You cannot get everything in life. But I survived. That's why I am happy.
So, did you always, when you decided to leave, you always because you liked science and you liked research and you liked learning, it seems like you
Mhm.
always had it in mind that your next step or next profession will have something to do with science. Is that true? Is that correct?
Something related to science. Uh, okay. No. Well, when I was leaving lab, it's around 2015. Okay, so it was the 100th year celebration of Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity. So Science magazine published a beautiful comics, and I was thrilled. Okay, Science is publishing comics. It was made by Adrian Chow, and back to back Nature also published a comics, and till date in environment section, that comics is the most viewed article in Nature. It was made by Nick Susani, and it was around the mid of the 2015. And in November, I found Nick Susan is at that time was a PhD student in Columbia University, and he wrote his thesis in comics. Okay, and in the history of Harvard University Press, they published comics for first time. So it was a thrilling moment for me. So and it was not really about science, but his nature piece was about science. But again, I was thrilled, but I was not very inspired because at that time in my head was Sacco again. So I would something create like Sacco. So in the beginning, it was not science. I was ready to say goodbye to the science. Then I was at that time very angry to that whole field. But uh, around 2017, uh, in an evening, I was having tea with my colleagues. Just in front of my office, and I was lecturing them about some topic on immunology. Okay, and they were artists. So after 20 and 30 minutes discussion, they told me we never studied science after high school, but now how you told us these things, we can visualize it. So why don't you draw signs from it? Why are you going? Why are you going to follow Sacco's path? Because you cannot go to a war zone or a conflict zone. You don't have that kind of money or support. Indian media is not ready. So, but you have a 5 or 6 year experience in science, so you should do it. I took their suggestions very seriously, and I came back to home and I started again studying how to make a blog, and then that's how my blog, Drawing History of Science, was born. So it was my two of my colleagues actually who pushed me.
So once you had decided to venture into telling stories about science through art,
Hmm.
did you take any training for art or did you just rely on your innate ability to draw? Did you take any other training in maybe history of science? Did you learn any other subjects for this to prepare for this?
Okay, so my work has three parts, right? So one is drawing, another is history, and another is science. So since I have spent a prolonged year in grad school as a researcher, so I have some background in science. So of course I didn't take any extra care for that part. Now about art, uh, I I can remember clearly. I last time I drew something seriously on a notebook when I was in ninth standard, and my mom was really angry on me. Then I stopped, completely stopped. I drew a second drawing on the same notebook when I left lab. Okay, I pulled that out from my bookshelf and I started drawing. I didn't take any formal training, but of course, I I prepared a lot, just before starting the blog. There was a person in my office whose name is Suman Chaudhary. He was the principal artist for the company I worked for. I asked him one day in one fine evening that okay, I want to learn art like a student. He told me, will you be able to follow my path? If yes, then I am taking you as my personal student without pay, of course. We are colleagues basically.
Correct.
He next day he gave me a syllabus.
Mhm.
Okay, and he told me, okay, this is the syllabus. art art college students syllabus basically. They have to finish it within 3 years. You have time. You finish it within 5 years. I told him, no, I will finish it within 2 years. And of course, I couldn't finish it. But I tried to finish it as much as I could. So I got formal training. I actually followed that path. Like, okay, now in this month you will do still life. Okay, this kind of training art college used to give to the students. I did that. Okay, now only graphite pencil, no charcoal. I did that. Now charcoal, you can touch charcoal. I did that. So when I became a student, I was a student. So I followed that trend. So it helped me a lot. But since I am not from an art college and I have a science background, I think it is a very good advantage for me because I can bring new ideas. Okay. Again, beyond as an artist, I can bring new idea beyond laboratory science. Parallelly, as a scientist, I can bring new ideas beyond art college concepts. So this is very advantageous to me. And I just became his student, and I followed everything he asked me to do without any questioning. And at that time, I used to do double shift in office because as a journalist, my duty started from 9 a.m. and it ended in the afternoon. And the artist duty used to start from in the evening and it uh, end around 10 p.m. So my duty time was 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I used to get back to home at 11:30 p.m. or 12 a.m. Then again I start practicing till the first light of morning. Then after 2-3 hours nap, I used to go to the office again. For 2 long years, I followed that routine. And I practiced a lot. And I practiced everything, like human drawing from anatomy to cartooning to oil painting to everything. Then I thought, okay, my style would be comic. I do not want to draw painting, but I practiced everything. In this way, I prepared myself. And now history. Okay, so it was a calculative risk, I would say, to bring history in the loop. Why? Because in India, the science journalism or science comic kind of stuff, whoever is doing, where they are far away from the action because every interesting science is happening in USA or Europe. Right? You cannot deny that. Okay, and visually, Indian science is very boring, very boring. So then I thought, since I am outside laboratory, what kind of science comics I want to produce, I cannot do being outside the laboratory. So let's include history here because now most of the archives are digital. So I can make contact with them and can ask real historical evidences so that I put them in my comic. Because I wanted to use primary references, not book written by someone else, primary papers published on history. Then I thought, okay, while I was doing historical research, I was only experiencing digital archives. But how it feels like being in a physical archive, like what real historians do. So I started networking with the historians. Okay. Now I am a research assistant of Heidelberg University too. So I am working for Heidelberg University Transcultural Studies, and this work is completely historical work. So I am signing my that skill also. So uh, these are very calculative. Like I prepared for the drawing, then I had background in science. Now I am actually preparing for being a historian. I think within 5 years I will come up with something original in this field. So that's how I prepared, and my preparation is going on.
So, are you planning to write about Indian science history? Because you are already working with Indian women scientists and telling their stories. Is that your goal to write something original about Indian science?
Yeah, actually, I have two passion projects. I don't know how I will finish this because I need funds. One is history of astrophysics in India, but I need serious collaboration in this. Of course, fund from ISRO, but I don't know whom to approach or how to approach. I don't know yet. I am still figuring out that. And another is history of particle physics in India, because in pre-independent times there was a school called Calcutta School of Physics. C.V. Raman was also the part of that school. So in Calcutta, in my city, this was actually uh, the germination point of physics research in India in pre-independent times. Then it shifted to Bangalore or Mumbai. Okay, so these are my passion projects I have in my mind, and I am continuing studying whatever I can get. But to finish this, I need serious collaboration. So still I haven't got any. So perhaps in future.
We were thinking that after spending so many years doing research in cancer, you worked with cancer. Am I right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So when you left, did you not consider any profession in the industry? There must have been many opportunities for you to work in the industry. Did you have to give up any of those to
I
follow your
tried
passion?
uh, I tried a lot, I will say. Okay, I at least sent more than 100 applications to various organizations and companies. Even I applied for technician's job, like in college or even in high school, because at that time I wanted to get any job. And of course, when I just left, it was in my mind, okay, let's use my already acquired skills. But I never got any reply from any one of them. I didn't get any job in industry. Perhaps it was my fault. I would say I was not ready how to write a resume, or at that time I was very impulsive. Perhaps so there are some loopholes in my application, but I didn't get any job. The first job I got, it was the journalism job, and since then
How
I'm
did
doing it.
your family react to your leaving science or scientific research and becoming a journalist? Did you have, did you have,
Very
it's
hostile.
a,
Very hostile.
yeah?
Yeah, this was like hell. Like when I left lab, the next 2 years was like hell for me. And my parents stopped talking with me, so that I left home. I was very certain. Okay, what kind of mistake I did in my PhD days, it's done. Now on, I I will not do any mistake. I will not let anyone to disturb my mind, and I will be very focused on my work. And I was very serious at that time. So it was good for me at the darkest moment of my life. I was very cool and calm. But the people, the closest people, were not ready to give me that window. So I left home. Then I got married, and my wife was my wife has been always supportive. She is my long-term girlfriend, so she knows everything, my ups and downs. But then everything got right with the parents after 2 years. But yeah, the first 2 years it was very hostile from my. But what I did, I stopped to explain myself to them. I knew that what I was
I assume that you created opportunities for yourself. That is very
doing.
clear. Uh, and current field that you are in, and I'm not talking only about journalism, but also your passion to tell stories about science through your art. This is a very, very niche, very specific to you kind of a field, right? So,
Yeah,
how easy is it for you to get different projects as a science artist or commissioned project, something that will pay? Is it dependent totally on your networking? How do you look for work in, not in journalism because that you have a job, but to get projects in science
yeah.
art?
Science. Okay. So in the beginning, it was really tough. Okay. So, but I had an advantage that when I started blogging, it was not my agenda to get commission. Okay, I just wanted to bust out. Okay, I had something inside me. I just wanted to show people, okay, I can do this too, and I was loving it. Then I got some friends like Ipsha. Ipsha was among the first one who contacted me, and we became friends. Somdatta from CCMB, we became friends. So at that time, it was not about commission or about work. We just used to discuss. Okay, he was doing something, I was doing something. Somdatta was also in the beginning of her job. So in this way, a small niche created in India. But of course, they were not funding bodies so that they could come up with some funds. And I was not very eager to earn money from my art also because I had a job and I knew that someday it may create some money. Then from the Stampier platform itself, I got my first commission. Stampier uh, asked me to draw some illustrations for their articles, and I created some beautiful comics. They didn't ask me to draw comics, but I did this. It was my personal drive. Then, then Sai Illustrate. It's directed by Radhika Patnala. She was the first one who paid me, actually. Okay. I collaborated the Indian Women in Science. It was a year-long project with her. Then again, it was up and down, getting commissions, and uh, it was some way good, no, some way bad. It was some kind of I would say mixed response from the scientific community or historical community. They at the time were not ready to get some to commission some artists, okay, and especially in India. And then one thing happened. I would like to mention uh, uh, in last in 2018 into 2019 actually the first image of the black hole was published. Okay, the scientists claim that this is the first image of the black hole, and I knew that New York Times or Guardian or BBC uh, uh, were ready to draw some cool infographics on the next day. And it was something personal drive that I will create something before them. Okay, so within a few hours, I didn't sleep at that night. I studied the whole history. I can understand physics research and mathematical research because I have a wide interest in science beyond biology also. And I drew a comic and I put it on Twitter. And next day it was a huge response from the international community. And from that moment, international comics artists started to mail me, and they became my friends. And I started to get international commission. And last year I got a very large commission from Exeter University. It was funded by British Library and HRC. This year also I have a long project from University of Oslo, and I am right now collaborating with David Booker. He's from University of California, Irvine, and he's director of informatics there. So now I have many projects, many international projects. The lengthy projects, very well paid projects, and my hands are totally filled. I barely can get a break now. So it's completely my schedule is full. But again, I want to say all of these lengthy projects are from foreign soil, not from India. It's getting from I'm getting this from outside university, but uh, it's not sustainable because in Europe, in America, there are many other artists like me. Okay, but India perhaps the field is just booming. So Indian institutes should come with their commissions and should invest some money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, now it's okay. Now it's okay for me. In beginning it was tough, and it it was tough, but it was not problematic for me because I wanted to just practice. Now I am getting good commission.
So can you tell us a little more about your mentors? Because you have
Yeah.
talked about them in the past.
Mhm.
I would like to know how they helped you make different decisions, because these are really unusual decisions that you have made in your career.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, yeah, of course, you will agree that my change in career was like a paradigm shift. Okay, I was completely new, and but I survived because of my mentors. Mentors mean they are not my teachers or some supervisors, but they are individual people who helped me a lot. Okay, when I joined the media house I worked for as a trainee journalist, I was very depressed. Of course, I was depressed. I just left research. I was a insanely low paid worker. But my boss at that time, her name is Devasruti Roy Choudhury. Devasruti Roy Choudhury is now Dean of Ashoka University. She left the media house year after. She told me, okay, you are very talented, and if ever I get chance to give job to three people in India, you will be my first choice. But right now we are very depressed. So get rid of that. So that was very confidence boosting moment for me. Then again, Suman Chaudhary, the principal artist, he became my lifelong friend. He became my lifelong friend. And there, and when I started drawing comics seriously, Mr. Dev Kumar Mitra, he's a visiting faculty and Master of Design. He helped me a lot. And then I would like to mention Nick Susanis also. In 2015, I got inspired by his comic. Then, after publishing my Black Hole comic in Twitter, we started communication. He actually recognized that comic. It was like a full circle. Like I started drawing science comics, seeing his comics published in Nature. Then he helped me a lot, sending me lots of notes, personal texts, and how should be my approach to science comics. And he also gave me many connections. They are historians or scientists or science comics artists from USA. So these individual people are my mentors. And also my friends. Like I know they are not like mentors, but many times I shared my loopholes with them without any hesitation. Like I am not very good with money. Okay, I cannot ask people I want this amount for this project. So they used to tell me how should I talk with a uh, patron or something like that. So these individual people, friends, they are my mentors after leaving the lab.
Okay. So, in your case, you have a very unusual and distinctive talent, right? And you have used that talent to create a corner for yourself, very specialized corner. Many students are not aware of the talents that they might have, and outside of academia, particularly. So, how would you suggest they should go about trying to identify a talent for themselves and cultivate it so that they can maybe use it later in their careers?
Okay. So since you are talking about talent, I must say yes. When I was in school, uh, people used to tell that this kid is very talented artist. But I am not going to mm, give many numbers to the talent. When I left PhD, I at that moment I didn't practice art what I used to do now for a prolonged year, like from ninth standard to a PhD, end of PhD. Then I practiced. I worked day and night. So I am not giving much number to the talent. Rather, I'll focus on work. Okay. So it's the answer to your talent part. Okay. So I am not a believer of talent. Okay, you have to work. You have to work day and night. Now, how people will identify their talent or interest in something else? Okay, I think people know that, but they are just scared. There, there are many people who love playing guitar or they have interest in singing. Just because of the pressure from family or the society and that uh, scary concept in head that this is a bumpy road, this perhaps will be a bumpy road to build a career, they do not pursue it, but people know their talent, people know that already, they just are scared to pursue it. And being scared is not a bad thing. I was also very scared when I started drawing, but again, you if you want to make a career outside the box, you know that what you have, like how, like in the year of 30, if you want to play ISL or football, it's not going to be happening. You have to be pragmatic also, like what is your body or your mind is going to permit. Okay, so be calculative, identify your hobbies. Hobbies are good thing, it's not, hobbies are just not hobbies. Okay, if you pursue a hobby for 10 years, suppose your hobby is playing piano. Okay, if you pursue this hobby every day for 10 years, you will be a maestro. It's organic. So people know their talent, just they are scared. If they want to build career outside the box, just start working and be disciplined and never look back. That's the key. I followed that.
Okay. I think this is very true. Having a hobby is very important. And I think in the COVID year, it has become all the more important that people who have dormant hobbies have suddenly realized the importance of those hobbies. Orgo, it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for giving us your story, because I think there are a lot of points that you mentioned, which are very useful and very important for students who are trying to figure out what they want to do later in life, or are in a profession or a job that they're not very happy with and may want to transition from there. They need the courage that you
Yeah.
had. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to us.
If you like this video, subscribe to our channel Khidki.Stempiers and follow us on Twitter Khidki_edu.